Well, welcome into the Leadership Sandbox podcast, where we take bold ideas and bold conversations and put them into action plans to uplevel you as a leader in your everyday world. I am Tammy J. Bond, the host. And as we get ready to transition from 2024 to 2025, today's episode I thought would be fantastic to have it be all about discovering the greatest gift that you can give yourself and your team in the new year. And that gift is the gift of leadership with excellence. Because leadership isn't just about what you achieve. It's also about the lessons that you learn along the way and how you transform those lessons into up-leveling your skills as a leader. And today we're unwrapping those lessons for you and your team so that you can step boldly into 2025. So grab your pen and paper, kick off your shoes, get ready to step into the sandbox, because we're going to be tackling some really great gifts that you can share with your team in this new season, in this new year. I'll see you in the sandbox. Well, what if I told you that the most valuable thing that you've earned this year isn't on a spreadsheet? It's not in an end of year report. It's not in a bonus check. It's the leadership growth hidden in the wins, your challenges, right? And even your team's journey throughout this previous year of 2024. So as we step into this new year, I want to unwrap the lessons that you've learned that have helped you and shape you into the leader you are today, but also to help shape you into the leader you're going to be going into this new year. We're going to unwrap today 3 key gifts of leadership from this past year: reflection, communication, and alignment. I'm just going to give those to you up front, but I also want to say there's some bold conversations that are going to happen as well, because around goals going into the new year, we want to discover how to use these gifts to lead your team with clarity and confidence in 2025. So let's get to it. Right now, I want you to write down number 1, or go to the paper that you wrote down your 1, 2, and 3 and start with number 1. The first gift is this, that you can give your team and yourself: the gift of reflection. Listen, this is why it's important from my perspective that we take time to reflect, because reflection is where we actually find clarity. It's not about dwelling, right? It's not about dwelling on the past. It's about extracting lessons, takeaways, key concepts, key ideas, key learning opportunities, key conversations that propel us forward. When we take time to reflect, we actually want to do that with our team. And there's a simple step process to be able to do it. 3 simple steps. You're going to host first a year in review meeting with your team, right? And this is all about taking time to reflect, because when you can reflect and gain, your team can also. And we're going to gain that momentum because that's going to create alignment, right? So you want to host a year in review meeting with your team. And I would offer that you use these 3 questions, and only these 3 questions. First question: what was our proudest accomplishment this year? Let your team talk about that. Let them noodle on that for a while. Let them get out the crayons and color a picture if they need to, because getting into that creative brain actually unlocks so much for us. Then you're going to move into what challenge taught us the most. And I want to hear from every member of the team. Give them time, 5 minutes each question, to write out their thoughts, and then get them into maybe small groups, right? Maybe groups of 2 and 3. If you have a small team, then do it all together. But when you can get them into a small group, that's getting them that collaboration that people love and thrive in, even the introverts. And we're going to take that time to extract out and learn from each other, and then share out with the whole group. So the first one: what was our proudest accomplishment for this year? What challenge taught us the most? And then what do we want to do differently next year? And this can be both individual and then collective. We as a team, we can answer it first for ourselves. What do we want to do different? And then for the team, let's dialogue about it. I love a good SWOT analysis, and you can take the time to talk about the things that are our strengths and our weaknesses, our opportunities and threats in a 5-minute conversation based on what we want to do different next year. And when the team collaborates on that, you frame that meeting up as a celebration for our growth. It's not just about success, right? It's about what did we grow in, and let's celebrate so that our team feels valued. They feel seen and heard and motivated to build on what we learned. So important. And to remember this, that reflection isn't about just looking back, right? It's about seeing clearly where we want to go based on where we came from. So it's not to go backward and redo. It's to say, okay, this is what we learned. This is what we're celebrating. Now, how are we going to take that forward? So that gift of reflection and doing it with your team, and do it early. As you're going into this new year, I would do it in the first week of the new year. I would do it right away. And there are some of you that are going, Tam, we just don't have time for that because of all the other things that we have. Now, I had a conversation this week with some leaders in a company. And all I heard from one individual was, I don't have enough time. And then what was interesting is the other team members kind of then got on that same boat, that same train, if you will. And they were going around the mulberry bush singing the same tune. Well, we just don't have time for all these meetings because then we don't have time to get our work done. And every time I have suggested doing desk audits on the executives to find out where their efficiencies are and are not, and then doing it for the staff to see if our staff are actually at capacity, because we can create the storyline, the narrative that we're too busy for these things, too busy for these meetings. And I will challenge you to say you're too busy not to have them. You're too busy not to take the time to have a reflection conversation with the team about what we learned, because that's going to up level us with excellence to go forward. Remember, it's not just about looking back. It's about seeing clearly where we want to go. We need to understand a bit about where we've been, what we've learned, the growth opportunity, so we can set the path forward of where we want to go. You owe it to yourself and to your team to take a minute, to take 5 minutes, to take a 1-hour meeting, bring everybody in coffee or hot chocolate and donuts, and let's do a reflection meeting. Super powerful for you. That's your first gift. Gift number 2 is the gift of, me, I love a good bold conversation. It's actually the gift of bold conversations going into this year. You see, the same group of leaders that I spoke with this week are struggling with having bold conversations with each other and holding one another responsible for what they're individually responsible to do, right? It's that I can hold myself accountable to what I'm responsible for. I'm going to remind you what you're responsible to do. They're having a hard time with that. It's also because we're not having bold conversations yet. There is resistance to that. I don't want to hurt his feelings. I don't want to make her feel less than. All of those things are true. I get it. I just had a very bold conversation with the 15-year-old in the kitchen last night. Kept us up pretty late about some grade issues that he's having on schoolwork. We got to have a bold conversation. And he looked at me, he goes, just stop. I don't want to have this. So I get it. I don't want to either. And that's how I feel as leaders. As leaders, I get it. Our team members may not want to have the bold conversation we need to have about their performance, but the reality is we want to have them. It's actually a gift. I digress. Let me get back to the gift of bold conversation and why it's crucial. Because great leadership is rooted in courageous communication and courageous conversations. And these bold conversations, as I like to call them, you have those. When you have those today, they're going to shape the trust and the momentum that your team carries into 2025. Why is that important, Tam? Because without trust and momentum, people are just they're just the song that just came to mind is driving along in your automobile, right? Like no particular place to go. Okay. I digress on that one, but that's what comes to mind, is that you're just moving along with no particular place to go. Without trust to know that I'm going to come in and have a bold conversation about helping us be on task and on track with where we're going. I want to build and shape that trust so that when my team feels that they're not able to execute on the deliverable they committed to, they're telling me before it's due, not after it's late, right? That's what building trust and then momentum takes it even further. So here's how we go about this. Here's an action step for setting up some bold conversations about performance or about that reflection list of things that we learned and how we want to change things going forward. It might require some bold conversations. So I want you to actually set up a kickoff meeting for the new year. Yes, you're going to have your reflection with that, but then you're going to go into a kickoff meeting from that reflection after you've had the chance to review it and share what your vision is for 2025 and share why that vision matters based on the feedback that the team has given you from the reflection conversation that you had with them. A really great way to start that as the leader of the team, as the leader of the company, is to say it this way: this year, I want us, and then fill in the blank. Let's say we're going to kick off having more bold conversations in the workplace, because this is gift number 2, right? Having those bold conversations. This year, I want to communicate with clarity, courage, and respect. And bold conversations are welcomed. But they're more than that. They're necessary for our success. And I want you to say that with your team. I want you to say that to your team, whether collectively or individually or all of the above. And then you're going to teach the bold conversation framework, because you've just stated, I want us to communicate with clarity, courage, and respect, right? Remember, you've heard me say it before, clarity is kindness. Yeah. So those bold conversations aren't just welcome. I'm saying this to the team. They're necessary for our success. So now we're going to talk about the framework for having those. You're going to start with what's working. You're going to identify the area for improvement, or tie it to a behavior, right? Situation, behavior. And then you're going to propose the next clear step. That's the impact that that behavior is, right? It's an SBI conversation. Start with what's working, identify the area for improvement, and then propose the clear next step. And then it's about incorporating bold conversations into your routine, into your meeting routine, one-on-one and with the group. You're going to build those moments for feedback with your team weekly at minimum. I heard from one leader that hasn't met with their team in 5 months. Shocking that that's the case. And they were actually really okay with it. Like, they talk one-on-one with people, but as a team collectively, the team doesn't know where the team is going and growing because the leader isn't having meetings with them, right? I get that there's a vulnerability to that. However, when we build that feedback, that those bold conversation and those moments for bold feedback in our team's weekly meetings, not every 5 months, not once a quarter, not once a month, I want it weekly. We get to start out with a really great question. What's one thing that we can do differently this week to improve? Now, if you're running a sales team, I'm going to tell you this, that weekly is absolutely necessary, but it's also even important to look at it as a daily stand up, a daily check in. What's one thing I can do different today to change the outcome? What were the outcomes I had from yesterday? What am I goaling for this today? And what's one thing I can do different to improve it from yesterday to today? Those kinds of people that have those numbers, the goals that they have that they're aggressively getting on a daily basis, it's really a great way to have. On the weekly meeting, you're saying, what's one thing we can do different this week to improve on? Why are we asking that? Because I'm getting people in that creative mind again to be their own problem solvers instead of looking to you as the leader to solve the problem. I guess I can say that's kind of a bonus gift, right? The gift to you is when we equip people with the ability to have bold conversations, we equip people with the clarity, because that's our role as leaders, is to give them that clarity. We're actually equipping them to get the job done, and they're not so reliant on us, looking to us. So we're feeling frustrated, or we're feeling overwhelmed or exhausted or tired or whatever insert emotion you're feeling. Right? You're going back to the what's underneath the tip of the iceberg conversation, and you're actually going to dig into it, but you're going to actually give people the tools to problem solve. And as a leader, I get it. Modeling vulnerability can be challenging. However, by sharing a challenge that you're having with your team, right? When we're talking about how to set up having these bold conversations, and you're actually modeling vulnerability and sharing a challenge that you face this year or this week or today, and what you learned from it, you're modeling that. Your example sets the tone for openness. And it's the other part of building trust with your team. They're seeing you do it, and it's so important. So please, let's be bold and have some bold conversations, and let's be vulnerable as leaders to talk through what we want for the new year and how those bold conversations are going to help us, because bold conversations aren't just a leadership skill. They're a gift that builds that trust, strengthens the team unity, right? And drives results, because we can have bold conversations, not take them personally. We have a framework. I gave you the framework. Let me go over it again. Start with what's working, identify an area for improvement, and propose a clear next step, also known as, you can use it as a situation behavior impact. And that's going to help you to have those conversations and welcome them on the regular. So important. All right, gift number 3, the gift of alignment. Why is this necessary? Alignment is the difference between a team that works and a team that wins. Think about that. Alignment is the difference between a team that works and a team that wins. And as you transition into this new year, it's time to ensure that everyone is pulling in the same direction toward the win. When you have individuals in silos, that's a lot of conversations for you to have, and then cross conversations that you get to have because the silos don't talk to each other. So you as the team leader are having to tell everybody else what the silos individually are doing. Stop that. Stop that. Get people into alignment, because it's the difference between a team that works and a team that wins. If you just want to have a hobby, if you just want to be in the job, the job, taking home the paycheck and just plugging along, fine. And you don't want to win? Okay. Then tell everybody that. Y'all, I'm not here to win. I'm just here to work. Let's see how well your team does with that. I'm just saying. I'm just being bold. Happy New Year. I want you to do this when it comes to creating alignment, because it is an absolute true gift that you can give your team as well as yourself. I want you to do a team values reset. And if you haven't done a team values assignment or project, or worked on what our team collective values are, not just the values on the wall for the company, but as a team, what do we want to be known, seen, and celebrated for? Let's get those done. But then you want to, and you can do it this way by asking, what values do we want to embody as a team in 2025 based on where we're going, right? Because we've cast vision as a leader. We've gotten clear with what we want, and we're wanting people to have bold conversations, and we're clear on our goals that we're goaling toward. Now, what are the values that align to that? So what values do we want to embody as a team in 2025? And I want you to use this as an opportunity to reconnect your team to a shared purpose, right? And shared priorities, that we're all in this together. We're all rowing in the canoe in the same direction. We're all putting in the same amount of effort and energy. Why is that important? Because that as you have your quarterly meetings with your team, like your quarterly milestone meetings about how we're tracking toward goals, we get to break those things into measurable steps so that your team feels that there's progress. But then when there isn't, or when we get off track, we get to come back to the values that we set as a team and check in on and align back to those values that we've all committed to. It's not you driving it, it's we collectively, right? And then it goes into communicating the why behind those values, and the why behind the goals that those values are attached to, right? And what do we want to be known, seen, and celebrated for is a great way, but what's the why behind that? Every individual might have a different why, but a collective why is also important. It keeps people grounded and connected, because it's not just about hitting the numbers, y'all. It's about building the future that everyone wants to see in the sandbox. It's about collectively building the future together. So here's something I want you to do. I invite you to do this. Ask each team member what their personal and professional priorities are for this new year ahead. And then go to aligning their goals with team objectives. So someone might come in and have a goal if they want a promotion into a new opportunity, a bigger role, right? More responsibility. That's great. Now you're going to take that goal and you're going to align it into the team objective so that that person can see their path forward. Because then you can unlock that commitment at a different level. And it's all around that motivation for that individual. And so when you know your individual team members' goals that they're goaling toward, and you align them to the team priorities, they see their path forward. And it's so, so important. I was having a conversation. I was at a speaking event the other week, and someone asked me a question about their growth path. And, they felt kind of stifled. And I said, well, what's the conversation that you've had with your manager about where your growth opportunity is? And they said, well, we haven't had that. The manager hasn't asked for that. I said, well, why are you waiting on the manager to ask for it? So you might be someone listening to this podcast that isn't you're on a team and you report to other people. Don't wait for them to ask. Go in and initiate the conversation. You too can ask or go in and share and say, hey, leader, I'd like to share with you my goals for the year so you can help me see how they attach to the team priority so that I can better align for this growth that I want. Alignment isn't automatic, friends. It's created by intentional conversation and a shared purpose. And it's up to us as individuals to do that. So as we come through the end of this episode and we're wrapping up these gifts, I want you to think about it from this way, or remember this, that leadership is the gift that keeps on giving. It's not about perfection, right? It's about progress. Be better, not perfect, right? Be better, not perfect. The lessons that you've learned from this year of 2024 are the foundation for everything that you're going to build on in 2025. Positive and negative, y'all. Positive and negative. Let's not shy away from that. I want to challenge you with this. I want to challenge you with this question. What is one leadership gift that you've unwrapped this year? A lesson, a challenge, or a moment of growth? And how will you use that in 2025 for your team's growth as well as your individual growth, collective and individual? I'd love for you to share it with me on social. I'd love for you to DM me. You can get me on Instagram, on LinkedIn. You can go to the website and send me a message. I want you to go ahead and message me what is your and how will you use your growth moment in this new year for your next level of leadership. The greatest gift that you as a leader can give is that clarity and vision, courage to communicate boldly, and aligning your team with purpose. Unwrapping those gifts that you have from this year helps you lead boldly in the new year. I want you to think about that. So often we as leaders let go of quickly what happened, what was, when really we want to look toward how does that shape us toward where we're going for the future. That is our opportunity coming into the brand new year of 2025. Thank you for joining me in the sandbox today. Hey, leader, thank you so much for joining me in the Leadership Sandbox today. I am thrilled that you took time to grow into your next level of leading, because being a leader is not something that we're just naturally born with. You've heard me say it before. It's something that you grow into, and you spent time in the sandbox growing into that today, and I celebrate you. I'd encourage you to take this episode and listen to it with your team, because everybody's going to take away some of these tips a little different and how they want to apply it. But all of those questions that I gave you are in the show notes. So make sure that you get those so that you can actually ask those questions to your team when you have your reflection meeting, when you have your goal setting meeting for the new year. And be sure to subscribe and share this podcast. Let's continue to unwrap the gifts of leadership together in the sandbox. Hey, make it a great day. God bless you.